Hey guys, Carmen Rios here, digital editor at Ms., and I'm here with filmmaker Pamela Green. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you for having me.
And so, your movie Be Natural, it premieres tomorrow, tonight.
It comes out April 19th
Oh,
at the Lemley.
awesome.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, at the Lemley. I was just there this
Yeah.
weekend.
Lemley Monica.
Yes. And yeah, so Be Natural sort of tells the story of Alice Guy Blaché, who sort of was this pioneer in film. So it's like, spoiler alert, modern cinema was in fact sort of created and pioneered by this woman. But then I thought that something that was really interesting about the film was that it's also about the way in which she was very much so forcibly, not forgotten so much as really forcibly erased from that narrative. And so I'm just curious, how did you find out about her and decide to sort of embark on this journey to reinserting her into that history?
So I had seen something on AMC about women pioneers in cinema, and one of them was Alice Guy Blaché. And I think what impressed me the most about her was the fact that she had done so many things at that time. Because, yeah, you made one of the first narratives, big deal, who cares? I mean, many people do something that's first, but she's one of the first. But the fact that she wrote, directed, or produced 1,000 films, she had her own studio, she dealt with all these social issues. There was just so much. I had to find out more.
Yeah.
So I began investigating, not in an academic fashion, in a more outside detective story. I like Nancy Drew and Sherlock Holmes and Indiana Jones, but I wanted to find new material to support what she had said about herself. And she was very passionate and determined towards the end of her life, and she wanted to restore her legacy, but we weren't there yet for women, really. We weren't there yet to record and document so many things. So many things were lost. We didn't have the internet. So I felt that I had to be her last chapter, if you will, to help her restore her legacy.
Awesome. And I mean, she sort of had this cross-continental life too, where she was making films in France, then she was making films in the US and opening studios here and working with a lot of people that we do see in history here. And your journey to sort of restoring her story also took you sort of all across the country and the world, and even into these conversations where people didn't even realize that like their aunt or their great aunt was this pioneering figure in cinema. And so what did it take for you to figure out all of the unanswered questions and sort of find all that archival footage and those people that you spoke to?
Well, she was a globetrotter, so that's kind of someone that was hard to track down, and I needed to like put a GPS on all of the places that she had been, because I think that's one of the reasons why we don't know about her. She traveled so much later in her life with her daughter, so you couldn't pin her. So for me, I wanted to know not only about her, I wanted to know about the context, but I also wanted to know who was either related to her or who would talk about her, because it's always better if somebody else talks about you versus you talking about yourself. And I wanted to prove to academics that nobody did know about her in Hollywood, very few, if any, and also that I was going to find new material. So it was, to answer your question, it was all over Europe, the US. Alice's films are in 62 archives. A lot of the stuff was discovered before me. I'm on the shoulders of many other people, but the funders that were behind me really supported the detective story. And they actually, a lot of women actually, not Hollywood. Hollywood did not make this movie. Hollywood discouraged me to make this movie. But a lot of women such as Geraldine Dreyfus, Regina Scully, Jamie Wolfe, Hugh Hefner also donated a lot to the film, which gave me the freedom to do the research to make the film that I thought would be good for Alice, and restoring her legacy. It's a very expensive, time-consuming adventure. Do not try this at home. And you have no life. You have to give everything you can to get to the finish line. And if I didn't have the people that were supporting me financially and emotionally, I would have definitely thrown in the towel. I thought about it many times. And Facebook people, actually, they keep me going. You know, they're like, keep going, and donating, etc. So I'm still raising funds, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah. Well, and how long were you sort of searching for Alice?
Well, it feels like eternity. I came across her probably in 2010, 11, and you know, it's not a linear thing.
Yeah.
Because you have to make a living, you have to pay your bills. So I would put it down, I put it back up, and then, you know, pull it back up, put it down again, ask more people. It took close to almost a decade.
Wow.
I think I'm done.
If there are any more of Alice's secrets out there, yeah, someone else has to tell us.
If she's alive, I'm not interested. The only thing I want to do is set up her foundation. So then if any more things are found of hers, there could be funding to restore and preserve, and also to do maybe a DVD of all of her American work, because we only have snippets of her American work. There is a Gaumont DVD for all of her French work. Not all of it is on there. But the more people see the work, the more people can realize how important she was to cinema. She's the mother of cinema.
Well, and it's interesting too that you talk about sort of having this funding that's not coming from what we know now as the entertainment industry, not coming from Hollywood, and how that gave you freedom. And there's almost, you know, in the film, you sort of address the idea that once Hollywood became a money-making venture, that once people realized that it wasn't a passing thing to have the ability to watch moving images, and basically once women like Alice had proven that if you could tell a story through moving pictures that people wanted to watch it, suddenly all of the women in the field sort of did get erased, and men started writing a new narrative of film. And I'm interested in, like, you spoke to so many contemporary filmmakers and sort of film actors in the documentary. What impact did telling because a lot of them admitted that they had no idea who Alice was. I had no idea who Alice was before I watched the film. And what was the impact you saw already of sort of reinserting her into that narrative, of even just introducing people in that space to her?
It was very difficult at the beginning. People thought, why are you doing this? It's career suicide. You know, you should just move into features, because my day job is I do opening credits for films, commercials. I work on a lot of editorial, but I never edited a full film before. And I didn't go to film school. And I didn't go to design school. I didn't go to many schools. And that's okay. You can get your education all different ways, by experience as well, on the job. But determination and passion sometimes are stronger. And it was great, because it was a battle to get people to I had a binder of all these things that I would show people each time, and I would actually send them films, and they had to do their homework. So nothing in the film is fake as far as people talking. They really watched the work. They really invested the time, and they were stunned. And they're like, how did you find out about her? And to me, it was more like, okay, she's been dead since 1968. So a lot of people had done work before, but again, it was in the academic area, and it wasn't brought to the masses. So yeah. I brought all the what would be her contemporary people today. So there would be relatability, because Hollywood said, nobody cares about silent cinema. Why are you doing this? Well, actually, they do, because if you do watch this film, it is very contemporary. It's a very contemporary story. It's a young girl, indie filmmaker that, you know, got a bunch of friends together and started making films. They're like the YouTubers and the Instagrammers of that era. I call them the first class of Silicon Valley of 1895. So when I was studying, there was no Me Too. There was no Time's Up. People would turn off the camera. Women were not comfortable talking to me in the interviews. They were afraid that it would affect their jobs. I mean, it's the honest truth. And then as time went by, I started seeing Alice being written in articles, being mentioned. I think it was like a big shockwave earthquake to Hollywood because we had a Kickstarter that was very successful. 3,840 backers, not to include all the people that donate on PayPal through Facebook, so thank you. So I think it woke everybody up because I think we all believe in women's issues. We're all feminists, but we've been programmed a certain way. Like, I certainly never thought of a woman director. And I think I was pissed off when I found out about her because it broke the way I thought of stuff. I worked with a lot of male people in my day job. I worked with males and females, but I work with more females as of late because I want to promote them, etc. So yeah. I think this whole way of thinking that it was the norm, men, you know, it broke. Alice, me telling the story kind of opened up a lot of people's eyes. A lot of women's organizations were founded based on this documentary coming out. So I love the changes that are happening. I don't think it's enough. I think it needs to be more. And I think we're discovering through this that a lot of women were involved in many different industries at the beginning, but they weren't documented or recorded. And I think the more work that's done, not just in Alice, but all these other women, not just in film, in different industries, it'll close the gap and fill in the holes. And then we're going to realize that it is the norm. Women have been there. And I think that's going to change the way we look at every single industry. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I couldn't help but laugh when I was watching the documentary at this notion of, you know, the notions that we hear today, because we do have this collective history that we've learned about Hollywood that is like men created cinema and now women are breaking in, and it's just sort of tragically funny to look back and say there was actually a woman making, writing, directing, producing films. People liked them enough to emulate them and to have them become this foundation, and they were explicitly often feminist or charged with racial politics or somehow otherwise embedded in this idea of exploring women's voices, women's lives, and also having a very sort of feminist perspective. And there's still this narrative that movies about women don't sell, that no one wants to watch movies about feminism or social issues, and we keep proving that narrative wrong, but it still keeps sort of rearing its head. And so it's almost this sort of idea of, do you think Hollywood can come home again and go back to this idea of being natural, this idea of making movies that reflect the world around you and telling authentic stories, which was what Alice was trying to do the whole time?
It's definitely frustrating when I hear the way some of these executives speak, although it's changing, but not fast enough. I didn't wait for Hollywood. I think that's what's different. I was lucky enough that I had the freedom to make the movie that I wanted to make. And the support of people outside of Hollywood, I guess my advice would be, don't wait for Hollywood. Even when I was making the film, I didn't have the confidence. I would have many mansplaining situations. What do you know about editing? What do you know about directing? What do you know about writing? How are you going to do this? Well, you need to do it this way. You need to do it that way. And that's great to give advice, but you don't want Debbie Downers. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I learned in this process is you want people around you who are going to bring you up and support you and not make you feel bad or not good enough, which I think is a big problem in Hollywood with men. It's like, well, what do you know? You can't. You have to just turn everything off. Don't count on Hollywood and try to find a way. There's so many ways today through Kickstarter, Indiegogo, so many ways out there to get funding and to be more independent. Because at the end of the day, you want to be proud with what's on the screen. You don't want all these opinions, unless they're opinions that are moving the story forward, and opinions that are making you better as a filmmaker. You need to work with collaborators. I know there are studios that are I have executives that are amazing collaborators, but there's still some resistance. And I think the more we keep pushing through, and it's annoying because if you're a male director and you barely have done anything, you get these big movies.
Yeah.
If you're a female director and you do all this stuff, well, you know, so I think instead of constantly trying to have Hollywood hire you, you should try to make your own content and try to be independent as much as possible. That's my advice. It's harder. It's so much harder. But it's rewarding because then you get to make what you want. But it's painful. It's a lot of pain.
Well, and you sort of touched on this, that this is your first film. And so in the process, I know you learned a lot about Alice, but what did the process and also sort of what you were learning about Alice and her voice and her work, how did it shape your own work? Like, what have you learned as a filmmaker from the process of making this movie and studying her life?
Oh, so much. Patience. I'm not a very patient person. I think if somebody else had taken on this project and made the film that I made, it probably would have taken another 5 years. Because I would get up every morning at 4 a.m. and go to sleep at 11, 12 o'clock at night because I wanted to talk to Europe, etc. And I had my day job. Work with people that see your vision and people that support you, because if they're never going to change. So if they're not passionate like you are or close enough, don't do it. I learned a lot in the editing process. I'd never edited before. I used to give creative direction for the Academy Awards stuff I worked on, the MTV Awards, and my day job, cutting sequences like Twilight, etc. But it was terrifying. And I actually learned as I was editing how the film, it's a quote actually that I stole from a gentleman named Hal Ashby. In the business. I watched a documentary about him. He said the film will tell you what to do. And when you're sitting in front of a computer and you have all this material and how to go from one place to another, and have it all work, it's a lot of work. So you want to get opinions and you want to take what you feel is best, again, to move the story forward, but you have to have confidence. And I think patience, confidence, selection of people, knowing when to get off the screen, like content-wise. My film, when it got into Cannes, was 18 minutes longer. I wanted to kill myself. I was sweating the whole time, like, are people liking this? And then I just couldn't wait to make it shorter. And then Joan Simon, who co-wrote it with me, she kind of brought stuff back in, and Jamie Wolf was one of my funders. She's also a writer and editor, so she gave advice as well. But at the end, it's up to you. It's a very, very lonely process. You need to be okay with being by yourself, figuring it out, and you got to be tough and not give up, because, like I said, many times I wanted to unplug the drives. In fact, I did say it many times, like, I can't do this anymore. And if it wasn't for these people that kept picking me back up and say, no, we're here for you. We're here for you. Keep going. I would have unplugged everything. So I learned a lot of patience. I think that's the biggest thing. Because documentaries, it's like a sculpture.
Yeah.
You know, they evolve and they take turns, and you have to let it breathe and develop right before your eyes, because otherwise you're not doing the job for your subject. And that was the most important thing, is Alice always came first. I didn't want to infuse anything personal as much. I didn't even want to be in there. Kevin McDonald is a documentarian. He worked on Whitney. He said, you have to be in here. They have to follow someone. And I don't like being in front of the camera. Like, this kind of freaks me out. But I felt that I needed to have my emotional journey shared in there in a way, because I wanted people to understand what it took to make the film. They'll never really understand, but how invested I was to get her story told.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, I definitely felt like when I was watching the the film, it did sort of feel like we were being taken on this wild ride that spanned, not only wherever she was, but also wherever you had to go to put these pieces together, and the calls you had to make, and how did you find all this footage. And I definitely also appreciated that. And I think that is an amazing way to honor her, that it sort of gave you this glimpse into what it does take to put together, a documentary about someone this amazing and prolific, and sort of start uncovering and searching for more. And just this idea of, in that process, how disparate all of it is, and how hard it was to even find a record of this incredible woman's life. And you talked a little bit about the foundation that's being started to sort of keep tabs on all of that work. And so I guess now that the film is nearing its premiere, and everyone should go see it, and it's tagged in the description, so definitely go check out the page and like it and find out how you can see it. But what does come next for you as a filmmaker, and also I think for this as an extension of this work of preserving Alice's legacy and sort of rebuilding it?
A nap. I'm available if somebody's looking for a director. Not necessarily a documentary, although I love research, but I'm much more into features or series. Anything that I do will always have research because I'm annoying. I need to know. One of the things that I wanted to mention before I forgot is about the documentary is that you don't want to disappoint your subject. So I really listened to her over and over and over again. So whatever she would have wanted, I'm hoping wherever she is up there, if she's, she better like it because I spent a long time with her. But the future for her is to continue to make sure that she's taught, that her films get seen, and that we find more. And there's so much more to find. I'm just, a little bit of probably what's yet to come. So I'm passing on the baton. Take it, please. But she's always going to be have a special place for me. It's kind of my love letter to her. And as far as what's next, I have another female project. Surprise, surprise. I can't talk about it yet. But definitely sometime, and any directing that I can do in TV or film or anything, just to keep it moving, just to get my hands away from, cleanse the palate a little bit.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure she gets the right send off.
Definitely, and
April
I think
19th.
that you have April 19th. Be Natural: The Story of Alice Guy Blaché, the mother of cinema.
Yes.
And a pioneer that everyone should know about. And I just cannot believe that more people don't know about her. So thank you for telling us about her and bringing her story. Yes.
We're fixing it right now. By you guys watching this and, sharing this Facebook Live. I'm so fired from that. Then more people will know about her. And then go to benaturalthemovie.com for screen times, because it opens in New York April 26th at the IFC Center. And just keep looking for the cities near you. It's going to slowly. It took time to make the documentary. It's going to take time to get it out there slowly.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you all for tuning in. Go see the movie. Go share the video. Go spread the story of Alice everywhere that you
Follow
can.
us on social media, on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.